It's not too bad,
I like
but
your
you like a little more
summarize.
summarize.
Are we good? So before we actually start, would you like to share pieces of information you thought interesting, something that you had been told that wasn't necessarily true?
Many things.
this whole chapter is basically like government lies. That's about everything. Okay, so in the very beginning of the chapter, this is chapter 28. There is a scenario that kind of helps with the understanding of charging for garbage disposal. So they said that what if there is this food delivery service, right? You ordered food, doesn't matter how much food, doesn't matter what kind of food, anything from like ramen to, I don't know, something you'd find at a really expensive restaurant, like lobster, I guess. And it was like a flat monthly rate, and it was independent of, like I said, how much you ordered and what kind of food you ordered. So what would happen? Like if so more and more people, go ahead.
More people would get like really expensive foods because
And
they
then
didn't
start
have to
to
pay
eat
as much
more.
for it. Yeah, they'd eat more.
So yeah, that's what they said in the book. And this kind of corresponds to the like trash pickup. We all have like those big green cans, right, where they come and they dump the trash in. And in some places they charge like a flat rate for it, and in other places they charge like per can or per bag or something. Okay, so the first part, we make a lot of garbage. There are a lot of people in the US, and every person, estimated, produces about 4.4 pounds of garbage a day. So if you think about that, there are like bajillions of people in the US, times like 360 for each person. That's ends up to be about 250 million tons. And then if you want to think of how much that is in your brains, 1 ton is about 2,000 pounds. So that's like a bajillion billion pounds of garbage. So as you can see on this lovely little pie chart, the paper makes up the most of it, and then food and yard trimmings and all of that stuff. Okay, so methods for dealing with the waste. We all know about landfills, yes, and then incineration. So landfills are where they take the trash and they compact it. Sometimes it's in like these nice little square bundles, kind of like Wall-E. And then they put it in layers. So you have like trash, dirt, trash, dirt, trash, dirt. They build like dig these huge pits for this trash. And then incineration is they just burn all of the organic parts of the trash, and that helps get rid of it. So like I said, I found this lovely little diagram. There are 2 methods of landfills. First you have the trench method, which, as you can see, they just kind of build trenches or dig trenches and then layer it in. And then the area method, once again, you have like different, what's the word I'm looking for?
Sections.
Yeah, sections where, they have the trash and then layers of dirt, and that's how they separate it off. Okay. Before I go into that, so as you can probably expect, these methods kind of became unpopular with people who lived right around them, particularly landfills, because it's not exactly the most beautiful place you can ever go. And they kind of stink. So a lot of people living near these facilities kind of started to gain this not in my backyard attitude or mentality, and they started calling for government regulations, which made them more expensive to operate, and environmental concerns started forcing a lot of them to close. This is like 1980s, 1990s. And this kind of caused a little bit of a problem. And a lot of states had to start sending their garbage, like exporting garbage to other states with bigger landfills and better facilities. So in 1990, like by 1990, there were all but 5 states that were exporting at least some of their garbage to other places. Okay. Crisis that wasn't. The EDF, which is the Environmental Defense Fund, I think.
Yeah.
They wanted to start this recycling movement. And we all know what recycling is. They, reuse and try to make materials new again. And so they got the backing they wanted after something called the Mobro incident. And the Mobro was a garbage barge that was headed south full of New York City trash. And it was reported that it couldn't find a home for its load, meaning there was no landfill ever that could hold any of this garbage. That wasn't exactly true. While it was underway, the barge operator decided he wanted to change the disposal contract. He already sailed, so I don't really know why he thought this was a good time to do this, but he wanted to change the disposal contract. And he tried to negotiate over the radio while he was out at sea. And the operators of the likely landfills thought mistakenly that he had toxic waste. So, things from more of the industrial plants and such. And that wasn't true. It was really just garbage. And so he ended up getting a lot of adverse publicity, and it forced the barge back to New York City. And basically this group called the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA, blew this up and was like, we have to do something. There is no space for our garbage. We're going to end up living in piles and piles of waste. And what they did was they looked at how many landfills were in the U.S. And if you just look at the number was declining because of financial reasons, mainly, but they didn't really mention that the landfills that were existing were growing. And so the growth of space to put this trash was actually much higher than the disappearing rate of the landfills. So if you read the big article, which was 42 pages, but it was in really big print, so it's not that bad. Myth number 1, if I can get my life together. Page 6. Myth number 1 was that we are running out of space for the trash, and that myth came from this incident and from the EDF and the EPA. Okay, recycling. At the very beginning, recycling seemed to be like a good end-all solution to the problem. But as more and more communities and towns and cities started passing laws that made recycling mandatory, the prices for the used materials and the recycled trash began to drop. So in 1887, right, old newspapers were selling for as much as $100 per ton. And that's $100 in 2013 dollars, not $100 in 1987 dollars, which is actually worth more now. And the plummet in price was starting to cause communities to have to pay for collections. Instead, like before, they were being paid for collections, and now they had to pay for collections. And Another example of this issue is in myth number 6 in that long document I was just talking about, which is like page 19 or something. And so it said for every 100 tons of de-inked fiber from old newsprint, it produced about 40 tons of like this sludge that had to be disposed of somehow, but it was a lot more costly and it was a lot harder to safely and properly dispose of this sludge. So even though you had 100 tons to begin with and now you only have 40, now you have like kind of an even bigger problem. And like the costs and benefits of recycling have been debated quite a lot. I actually have a little bit of video. Just to show like the contrast. So one is kind of like an outside perspective looking at just data, and the other is like someone who's actually running like a recycling plant.
Explains that the most challenging part of the job is actually the cost of doing business.
The total materials we sold last year was $340,000 of everything we sold. Okay. My payroll was a little over $600,000. Okay, my diesel fuel cost was a little over $170,000. Can you see where what you sell there don't quite pay the bill? Because the city of Athens pays us a recycling amount. Every person in the city of Athens pays $3.50 per account. Okay, university pays us to collect their recycling. And with the recycling we collect from the people outside the city, we charge $4 a month, $1 a week. That money goes toward help supporting that. If there was money in recycling, as you drive out the road, you would see more and more facilities put in. How many recycling centers have you seen since you've been driving around?
So how can recycling become more?
Okay, so as he just said, recycling is kind of expensive. But then you have this lovely.
Does recycling save us, the average taxpayer, money? Well, some skeptics may argue that recycling programs are just another decadent layer of bureaucratic icing on the government cake. Cake. A way for politicians to line their pockets by finding people who don't recycle, and a way for corporations to get us to do the work for them by making sure their products are properly reused and by effectively getting us to supply them with new raw materials. And while there may be some truth to this, it turns out that a well-run recycling program can actually be cheaper than landfilling. Here's why. Landfills are owned by private companies, and cities have to pay money to dump their garbage into them. It's kind of like buying a condo for garbage. It probably used to be cheaper to dump our waste a while ago, but we also used to dump a lot of garbage into the ocean, so it's probably a good thing that the system has changed a bit. Recyclable materials, on the other hand, are actually worth money. In 2010, Chicago was able to sell their recyclables for about $31 to $47 a ton, whereas landfilling actually costs $26 to $35 a ton. Of course, the money your city receives for its recyclables is offset by the extra costs required to collect and sort the items. Even still, according to the EPA, a well-run curbside recycling program can cost from $50 to $150 per ton, whereas trash collection programs generally cost between $70 to even more than $200 per ton. So even though this isn't a huge difference, over time these savings will add up as we become better at recycling and less dependent on landfilling. Now for the next...
Okay. So kind of, this one was more from like the taxpayers and looking at, the actual cost versus landfilling, whereas the other one was really just looking at recycling and how much like that one place spends on. Okay.
Alright, so with a lot of the arguing over the landfills and stuff, some people who have studied this want to place bans on like certain items and products that people use because they're considered harmful to the environment, such as like styrofoam cups, because the big argument with them is that they're not biodegradable, and since they're used so much, people are arguing that paper cups would be better. But if you read the second article, which was a lot shorter than the myths one, it went into a lot of the technical aspects of like what it took to produce the cups of each type, and then it went into the different emissions they released. Like the emissions released to create just like a ton of paper cups was roughly, I think, 22 kilograms per metric ton compared to wait, no, that was styrofoam. But paper was like 33, so it's a lot more inefficient emission-wise to create it. But in the long run, it's probably less efficient for the environment to have it. And then people are also arguing over diapers, over disposable versus renewable. And the thing with that is there's so much waste using disposable diapers because you use them one time and then you throw them away. But if you reuse them, all you're doing is throwing away like the waste and the water that you use to clean it. But when you do that, you're having to pollute water. And in the article, it mentions there's like more British thermal units used to clean that than it is to just throw away disposable diapers.
So yeah, they did like a little experiment, and so whereas disposable diapers generate about 22.2 pounds a week, and cloth diapers only generate about 4 ounces. Using cloth diapers actually uses 3 times as much energy and generates about 10 times as much water pollution. So product bans aren't necessarily the greatest way to go. So talking about the recycling market, this is how I understood it. So you have our general graph here, and so correct me if I'm wrong, but so the quantity and the supply, like a lot more people started requiring recycling. So I saw it as this is the new supply line, whereas like the demand and like the resources didn't necessarily change. So you had P1 was right here, whereas P2 was right there. Does that make sense?
Yes, the price has gone down in the corner.
So the prices, yeah. All right. I actually have a question now. So, regardless of whether you read the book or not, and regardless of whether you agree with what the book said or not, is government regulation, so this doesn't matter, local, state, federal, whatever, when dealing with waste management, is it entirely like a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Is it a little bit of both? I saw your hand first. Go ahead.
I think it's a little bit of both because it says in the really long article that like forcing people to do stuff doesn't make the situation better, but it definitely would help if people recycled. So
Yeah, go ahead.
I would agree with her that it's a little bit of both, but because whenever there's no government regulation at all, then it'll be as you saw before, like in the past, where they're just doing whatever they want with the garbage. But if you have too much regulation, then they don't have enough funds to fund themselves and to keep themselves afloat.
Sierra, go ahead.
I think it's a little bit of both too, because the government can see like a bigger spectrum of everything going on than just we can. But I think they should listen to some people a little bit more, because then you would realize how it's affecting the citizens, and the government just thinks about how it's going to affect them. So I think if you have the ideas of both people, it'll really work out.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it would just be a good idea. I think it should be like regulated how much they have like a regulation. But I think it is a good idea because when you have different companies doing it different ways, then that becomes a big problem. Whether their trash consumption's higher and they want to burn it rather than landfill or whatever the method is. But I think it should definitely be regulated by the government, just not over-regulated.
So what about like the actual maintenance or the running of the? Yes, Sarah, go ahead.
I liked that. I think this is what you were asking. I like that they, the EPA is keeping landfills safe, and they have regulations like this is how you make the landfills. This is how you deal with the landfills. You need to maintain landfills. Like I think it was 40 years after they're closed. Like that's a good thing. But when they mess with the market, and artificially, like, they made recycling this huge thing, when actually, was it the long article that said, how it's wasting money? With the recycling trucks is a huge waste. And so they're actually doing more harm to the environment. So, I mean, keeping us safe is a good thing, but I don't, like.
At the same time, it's
So I think they should be involved in some aspects of it. But, yeah, the market clears away a lot of does a better job in the government.
I kind of had this idea, and I'm not sure, there might be some places that are like this, but where the landfills, where they have to send their trash somewhere else. Well, if they have to like get that into it anyway, then I know I watched some show on it where they like go through the trash or whatever to pick out the harmful stuff. I forget why they do this, but I was thinking to myself, I said, well, if they start making more of these facilities, like for people who don't recycle or whatever, they could pick out some of the recyclable things out of that, like say the glass and the plastic, if nothing else, and make sure that gets recycled, so it would help out like the environment and all. It would be better for the environment and help out a lot.
so like dumpster diving thing.
Yeah, sorta.
I'm not gonna lie, I've done that. Like I had my reasons for it, but
Yeah.
I didn't just go diving into that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, it's sorta, but like on a more mass scale, because like I said, there is some facilities out there, and I don't remember where or why they were doing this, but there's some facilities where they actually have to, like the burn joints, they have to go through their trash to make sure that there's nothing in there that could jack up their machines. So if you're gonna have to go through it anyway, you might as well recycle.
So in the book, they talked about 2 states, New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And in New Jersey, the state government decided to start regulating like waste removal and disposal and whatnot. And the political opposition to residents, assuming that the cost of the waste hauling and disposal essentially ended any investment in landfills. So landfills had like $0. And now more than half of the state's trash is now exported to Pennsylvania. And if you look at it, in 1972, there are 331 landfills operating in New Jersey. By 1991, the number had fallen to 50. And now there's only like 13 still operating. And even though New Jersey's kind of a small state, they still have like a lot of trash. So they don't really have anywhere to put. Now they're having like kind of an issue with the space, right? And so if we look at Pennsylvania, they don't regulate the market. They just kind of let it do its thing. And like there's kind of a balance between like facilities with it like provides the right incentives so that the competition doesn't get out of hand, but at the same time it allows the market to actually like function. And there are now 31 pending applications for new landfills in Pennsylvania, which in both in the book and in the article it said like an application takes about 7 years. And it's expensive and kind of hard to get it approved. But there's 31 pending applications in Pennsylvania, and there's only 2 in New Jersey. So looking at that, I'd kind of say that it's probably best to let the market do its thing and just like kind of not regulate it. I mean, obviously there has to be some regulation, or it's going to be like madness. But where's it going with this? But yeah, so another factor of it might actually be that there's more land in Pennsylvania, and there's more, like they kind of have like a better geographical spot, whereas New Jersey is rather urban. It's, you know, it's smaller and it doesn't have as much land to go to, but at the same time, I mean, they're right next to each other, and like just kind of looking at that in general. Maybe government regulation isn't the best.
Alright, so in the US, like New Jersey, there's a lot of areas with high population density but very low amounts of land. So like the ideal situation is to export trash to areas like out in the Midwest where it's less population dense and there's a whole lot of land. And this is actually happening in Wisconsin currently, and a lot of the problems people have with it is that they don't want their neighborhoods to stink or become devalued because there's landfills there. But Wisconsin is proving that you can have landfills like near where you live without devaluing it. And in certain situations, landfill companies will actually buy homes and stuff so that people won't like move out and that they'll be okay with them staying there so that they can stay in business while keeping the public happy.
And then there are also other communities, for example, there's a county in Oregon, and they actually, they kind of fight to get Seattle to export their trash to this county. And for kind of a good reason, like it generated about $1 million per year. And it's a really small county. It only has about like 1,600 people. And so it generated a lot of money. But then people are saying like, maybe we should kind of focus on like our community, our issue. So another question, should we try to prevent communities from accepting trash if that is what they want? Or should we kind of let communities like decide like, no, we don't really want this trash, yes we do? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, it makes them a lot of money, so each community has to weigh the balance. Do we have the land and the public opinion to have a landfill, and is it worth it? And I think that's the community's right to judge, is it worth it themselves?
Anthony.
Then, since we're a democracy, if they say, yes, we want trash, then yes, they can get trash. So.
Yeah, I kind of agree with what she said. It kind of, because these people are the ones that have to live there with it and deal with it on a daily basis, I think it would be their right to either accept it or reject it, depending on what it is. But at the same time, trash has got to go somewhere.
Right, and what if everybody that you, like the communities, everybody's rejecting it, then where do we put it? So,
I reckon you could say, within reason, like you can prevent it within reason.
mm-hmm.
Because, well, like I said, the whole discussion saying who wants a landfill in their backyard.
Mm-hmm.
So there has to be, there's some can be like I said, can be some prevention, but there has to be a line in the sand, so to speak, because I can't think of how any else to phrase it.
Another thing to look at too is like if the community doesn't want the trash, does the community have the budget to export it elsewhere? Because a lot of places aren't going to pay to help, like to import another place's trash, if that makes sense. Okay. Moving on. Do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, I can. Alright, so talking about Seattle, when they were trying to reduce the amount of trash they were producing, they implied taxes. It was really just a standard price on like how much trash you produce. Like a 32-gallon can was just like a standard trash bag or trash can. They would charge around $17, and now it's gone up to about $30. And then they would charge for like your yard clippings. And then if you wanted more, they would just keep applying that charge to it. So by doing this, they reduced the trash by 22%, and recycling went up by 12%. because recycling was completely free for them. So by doing that, they eliminated a lot of trash. But in Charlottesville, which is the next one, they did something similar by also placing a price on how much trash you produce. And people would go midnight dumping, which was pretty much just dumping their trash in a public dump or like in their neighbor's trash cans. That way there was more room in there, so they would have to pay less.
In
And-
Seattle, they also had the Seattle Stomp.
Oh
Where they would,
yeah,
like-
people would like jump on their trash to get it to compact so they could put more in there. And so in Charlottesville, it reduced it by 37%. And this is like a university town, so there's a lot more people than if it was like Pembroke. Well, I guess Pembroke is also a university town, but
Not as big.
yeah. And economists that have studied it, they thought that a good idea would to be like have one trash can be free, and then for every one after that, charge it. That way, it prevents like midnight dumping because people are going to be less worried about paying more money.
Discussion question. Move on. Go ahead.
Okay, well, obviously people are gonna want to recycle more if they have like a higher deposit on the bottles. But if there's a lower deposit, they're just not gonna think it's worth it and not gonna want to make that extra trip to the recycling can. And if there's a higher deposit on the bottles, they're gonna want to recycle instead of like litter or throw it in the regular trash can.
It's kind of like yeah, what are these box tops with on food? You know, like you're not going to take the extra 10 seconds if it wasn't worth anything to cut it out. And it's the same thing as like, you know, I think Coke does the My Coke rewards, and you're saving the bottle caps instead of just throwing it away. So I think there's incentives by companies that are already in place to kind of make this more to be able to recycle the products in general. But I think that if they continue that, there's going to be better rates of recycling and less, you know, recyclable material in the trash can and landfills.
They actually do deposits a lot more in Canada. So we have like 25 cents for if we bought back our milk bottles, or like my dad tells stories about when he was young. His summer job was he and his cousins would bike around and pick up recyclables, and my aunt still does this. She'll go on walks and pick up recyclables off the side of the road and bring them in and make money off of them. My dad, they would make $100 over a summer, which for a little kid is really great. So I haven't heard of it as much down here, but I think even if it's just a little amount, it does make a difference. It's amazing how you really want, especially if it's just like putting in this bag instead of this bag, you know? You think, oh, well, that's an extra 25 cents. It feels like a lot.
I agree with her, kinda. I remember my granddad telling stories about taking deposits off the bottles, but it's only like 25 cents, and it hasn't gone up since then. And some people just say, "Oh, that's a quarter. It's not going to amount to much," so they're not going to recycle.
Can I ask you a question, Ms. Shi, real quick? Sure. Go ahead. Is there anything like this in China?
Oh, yes. And when I was a kid, and we have deposit on all the bottles in like a vinegar. You know, we bought the vinegar, and next time we buy, we'll bring the bottle with me.
Yeah.
So we just pay the vinegar itself, not a bottle. So that happened a lot when I was a little kid. But right now, we don't have that kind of system. But we do is, you know, we just keep all the bottle cans, and we just take it to somewhere who collect them. Then we're paid for that. Yeah. So the system is changed, but it's still, you know, the essence of it is the same. You know. So that's what most people do. They keep the bottles and cans. They don't throw it away because they can get paid for it. Yeah. Even it's just a little bit money, but you know, it's you know, it's marginal. You know, Blaine talk about marginal benefit and marginal, you know, a cost. I think the marginal benefit is still a little bit higher than the marginal cost of keeping it and taking to the, you know, collectors. So people still doing that. Yeah.
I was agreeing with her because like it is just a quarter, and I feel like it might like for little kids it might mean oh I'll get a quarter for this. If little kids are probably more likely to do it, but I feel like a lot of adults are just they wouldn't care. It's just a quarter to them, and so I feel like it just depends on the person and what type of person they are.
My grandma does that still, except for she just asks like all of her kids and us to bring us her cans, and with the whole family doing it, she ends up getting a lot. And we had a family reunion, and she saved every single can that everyone used there, and she actually gets like a good amount of money. But like I said, she has 5 kids and all of her grandkids that bring her cans and stuff. So it does, you can get something off of it.
Are there things where you can bring in cans here? Because my mom, when we moved down here, my mom would rant about recycling and how Americans don't recycle and it's so horrible. She's American, but she likes Canada for its recycling. We haven't found anything.
I haven't seen anything down here. I remember because I grew up in Connecticut. So in like the grocery stores in Connecticut, we have they're about as big as like vending machines, like these big machines, and they're green, and there's like 3 different ones. So there's one for cans, there's one for glass, and I think there's one for paper in some places. And you kind of like feed it in, like it's like 1 can at a time, and it's almost like a game because you could like get it really going. But and you get like I think it's like 5 cents per can, 25 cents per glass, and then I don't remember how much for the paper. But it's in the grocery store, and then the store has it give it to you in coins. So then you go, and it generally has like a coin star or something, and you go in and you like dump the coins in, and you get so much back. And you can either get it in like store credit or you can get it in cash. So that's always how we did it when we were growing up. But I haven't seen anything
I
like
wonder
that
if there's anything around here.
They do cans because my grandparents, they'll like compact their cans and they'll take like 3 bags and they'll get like $20 back.
Okay.
I don't know where
I've seen the
exactly
big-
it is, but I know they do.
I've seen the big ones that you just donate
Yeah.
cans, but I've never actually seen where you get paid.
I don't know where they
Yeah, I know, like,
but
yeah,
I know they do.
we just put them, like, we just collect trash bags full of, like, the cans, because we drink a lot of soda at my house. And so, you know, we'll get, like, probably 8 or 9 trash bags full, we'll take them somewhere. They compact them, and then they pay you cash money. My dad has made over, like, $100 for, like, 8 or 9 bags before.
Yeah.
And I know my dad always takes like scrap metal because he works in like Caterpillar, like the place with the big trucks. And so when they let him take like the scrap metal home, and then he takes that scrap metal to, it's like a part of the landfill. So you have like landfill with the trash, and then you have like this little tiny like recycling part, and you can go and give them.
The
little
price
cans
on
or
that
whatever.
varies so much, and when it's really good, my boyfriend's always like grabbing metal to put in there. You can make good money off of them scrap metal.
Alright, anything else on this question? Yes, no, maybe. Number 2. Why do many communities mandate recycling? Is it possible to induce people to recycle more without requiring that all residents recycle?
By making recycling free, like they've done. You know, pay for trash, recycle free.
They could provide like, I know in my little community, you have to buy like the little green thing to recycle. If they gave those out for free instead of making people pay for them, that might be a little easier way to get people to recycle.
That, and if you did have to pay for like your trash, you would want to recycle more because that's less money, like less space you have to fill up in your actual trash.
So if you did it like they did in like Seattle, where you had to like pay for a can or whatever of trash.
You'd recycle a lot more because it's less space.
Maybe they can make recycling voluntary for like the citizens, but require recycling for the businesses that generate a lot of garbage.
Makes sense. Maybe also making like those machines, like I was just talking about, like more popular, like throughout everywhere, and not just like in Connecticut or New England.
So there's some incentive.
It's how it said in Pennsylvania that there was no government regulation, it just let the market take care of itself. I think it would be possible like for that, and then the people wouldn't be like forced to do it, but they would have a choice, and then they would have like a greater incentive to recycle.
So if they didn't have to like pay for the thing, and then if they just like didn't regulate it and make it mandatory, they'd be more willing. So, okay, first go ahead.
You could try, like, discounting trash service if you, like, take the option to also recycle.
Good idea.
I lived in a community where we like made to recycle. Like it was a military community, so they gave us all a trash can for trash and recycle, and if you didn't, you were like in trouble. Like they knew where everyone lived and had everyone's paycheck, so if you messed something up.
Yeah, isn't there like a fine if they find recyclables in your trash can in communities like that? They can fine you.
I still think it's hard to mandate. Like as a community, it's probably much easier to just give incentives to like, you know, recycle instead of trying to mandate that. Because then, like I said, you've got, or like they said, you've got to say, okay, you have to like check kind of every time you're, you know, the garbage or the recycle bins are going out. And if you just give people incentives, like incentives are a lot of the time like what people need. Like you don't want, people would rather gain something than being told.
Olivia.
I think they should mandate it just because if you don't, I really don't feel like people would do it. Not that everybody's gonna do it because you tell them to, but I think you should, like seatbelts. You know, if they didn't tell us to wear those, would we wear them? Probably not. And I think that at least if you mandate it, then it's out there and that people understand like why they're trying to do something, like why you're trying to do it. Like you wear seatbelts for safety and we're recycling because it's good for the environment. So.
Like, you know, could it possibly be a reason that people don't want to recycle because they like consider their trash kind of like private, you know what I mean? Like if somebody came through and was like looking through your trash to make sure you recycled, that could get a little frustrating because I mean you might have private stuff in your trash can that you don't want people like rummaging through, so.
What part of it?
Like, I mean, like, even if you throw away stuff with, like, important information, like social security card, I mean, some people do that. You'd think I wouldn't do that because that sounds stupid, but people go in your trash and could get your, like, information for credit cards. I mean, it's personal stuff in your trash can sometimes, so.
Sarah?
I think they could make recycling go up without mandating it by just making it more available and convenient. In this area, there's not very much. We recycle paper because my dad works for a company that uses recycled paper, so it's really convenient. We just throw it in the back of the trunk and he drives it to work. But no one else in our neighborhood recycles paper. It all goes to the landfill, you know, because it's not available for them. There's no option.
Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe like they could do a thing where it's like the more you recycle, like the less you have to pay for like your trash or whatever. Like say you recycle like a little bit and then you get this much off of you recycle more than you just.
Or what about those things that you like put in your backyard, compound like.
Compost?
Yeah, compost.
Yeah.
Like maybe if
yeah.
they I mean, some people don't like those because they can be smelly and stuff. But if there was like an incentive, more people might do it.
And I know in my neighborhood we have like or the city of Tallahassee gives back a rebate. So it's like I mean, like I said, it's an incentive, but like the amount of if you recycle, I don't know how they track it, but you know they do actually. And eventually you just get a rebate at the back end of the month for you know whatever you recycle. So I mean that's an example of an incentive to go ahead and you know they're not saying you have to, but they're just saying you know if you do then you're gonna get a you know $6-7 rebate at the end of the month.
And also maybe they can like instead of saying like you have to recycle, like it's a must. Like it's in my neighborhood, like you have to recycle, like they give you the trash can type thing. But instead of that they could like they tell you like you know plastic bottles and stuff is recyclable, but they don't tell you like what exactly is recyclable. Like to me it's kind of like a debate, like is this recyclable, is it not, like some stuff like
to make like the triangles more
noticeable.
Because I mean I know sometimes like I get a soda bottle, I'm like staring at the ceiling with the soda bottle to my eye trying to see if it's like if it's a 2 or a 3. Anthony, go ahead.
This is kind of on the subject of it. In Lumberton, and I think in St. Paul's as well, they've, like the whole city as a whole gave everyone inside the city limits a recycling like can, just like a trash can that you don't have to pay for anything, just as long as you pay the city for trash, you get it. And you'll go around and there's like no one uses it.
Really?
Yeah, because they don't have to pay for it, so like no one really does anything with it.
They have the same thing where I live, except pretty much everybody uses it. And like y'all were saying about how you don't really know what's recyclable, on ours it has like this big sticker that shows like
Yeah.
all the different stuff that you can recycle, like the different metals, paper, cans and stuff.
I think a lot of it is like the I want to call it propaganda, but like advertising and public mindset. In the North in Canada, I think they have a lot more of they've there's been this campaign where you need to recycle, and it becomes like this moral obligation.
There's more like moral incentive.
Yeah, and you feel guilty with throwing a can in the trash. You really do. Like it's just this gripping thing because they haven't necessarily mandated it. They've just used this campaign to make it a moral. I think it's moral incentive.
So kind of jumping off of that, first thing I thought of this is y'all know what upcycling is? It's like a relatively new thing. And so I think we call it going depression. I don't know if you've ever helped like someone who's grown up in the Depression clean out their house. They hoard plastic, like container, like takeout containers, country crock containers, butter containers, like everything. They hoard it, and so that's why we call it going depression, because in my house, we use all of that stuff. Like we rarely spend money on things like containers that you can buy in the store. We use we sort it, like that's what we use, and so it's kind of funny because people walk into our house and be like, "What are you doing with your life?" But I think if more people saw like the use of these containers, and I mean, yeah, sometimes it's a pain in the butt to clean them out, but they last for a bajillion years. So I mean, I think if upcycling became more of a thing, then recycling could also, like, if they made it more like a public thing.
Are you saying like, I think what you're saying is like basically if you're like buy a thing of butter, like just reusing the tub of butter, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So like we use country crock or butter or whatever.
Right.
So when it's empty, we wash it out.
and put like leftovers in it.
Leftovers in it,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
whatever. Like
Right,
that's what
yeah.
I pack my lunch is
Yeah.
country crock.
Instead of going out and actually buying like
Buying containers.
plastic.
That might be that real good too.
It's just
I think upcycling usually refers to like making something higher quality. So I think like if maybe that was used more, it might give it a better image. Because people take a lot of like old stuff and make like art out of it and make it look really cool.
And I mean, like, the people I've talked to about upcycling, they're like, "Oh, I'm not really creative. I don't do that." But it's like, you don't have to. I mean, because like I make stuff out of recycled materials too, so it's a thing. But I mean, kind of like what I was just talking about, kind of fits into that too, because now it's not just like this; it's also something else. It's
Yeah, and you can also picture, you can save a lot of money doing stuff like this.
That's true. That's true.
I really saw that everyone is doing that.
Yeah.
You know, because I've been doing that for years. I said everything.
That's how I was raised, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a struggle when you get to the refrigerator and you're like, what is this? Is it really butter? Because you never know.
Like, just like open it up.
So yeah, I mean, like, even if you don't like looking at it, just slap some paper on it, draw a smiley face, and you're good. Like,
Yeah. Use a dry erase marker to label it. You're set.
Yeah, like you like to think like a lot of people do that, but they really don't. Like there's a ton of people who just take everything they use and just throw it out and buy a new thing.
Well, I kind of disagreed with one of the articles, or one somewhere it was talking about how recycled goods, like, what by the time we throw it in the trash, it really is trash, and so it's not worth recycling. But I think a lot of people do throw out good stuff, like they throw out plastic containers that really could be reused, and it's just we don't feel like it's worth it to wash it out and reuse it or go to the effort,
And then at like some point you just have like so much, like my mom's house is full of that stuff, and sometimes I'm just like, can you stop? You have enough already. So
I drink a lot of water during the week, so like every weekend when I go home, I'll take all my empty water bottles in a bag and fill them up at home because it's free.
You know, I'll give you an example, plastic bags.
Oh,
Okay.
I have like
Plastic bags. In China, you go to grocery store, you don't get plastic bag for free. You pay 20 cents for it. So guess what? People carry their own bags. I mean, for me, every time I take a plastic bag from grocery store, I feel bad. I really feel bad. Sometimes, if I can hold it in my hand, I just don't worry about it. But in Harris Theater, I shop in Harris Theater a lot. There is a place they can recycle the plastic bag. So I just take like hundreds of plastic bag and put it into there, and I really feel that is quite a waste.
Here is like you get the plastic bag for free, and then you have to pay for the cloth bag. Like at Food Line, they have like the blue bag cloth thingy, and then you have to like pay for those. So I think maybe if they switch that up, that'll make it better as well.
Yeah.
Well, at Lowe's Foods, if you bring in your own bag for every bag you get, I think it was 5 or 10 cents. And people get serious about that because I've like forgotten to do it, and people will be like, "Did you put my bags on there?" So like they give discounts if you bring in your own bags at Lowe's Foods.
They do all kinds of stuff like that. They do, like Walmart does take bags though. My mom took like a huge pile yesterday actually. But there should be like, people should know about that. It's kind of hidden in a way where you can put your bags. But it should be more.
Yeah, it's like a really dark, it's like a black big container with a hole in it. You don't
And
really know.
I save my plastic bags. Like when I go to the grocery store, I'll save them at home and reuse them or use them for if I do take my lunch, put them in the plastic container and then put them in the plastic bag. That's it.
I use my trash can
Yeah.
bags for my midget trash can.
Yeah.
That's what I use them for.
I know, in Tallahassee, I don't know if you guys know what Publix is, but that's our Harris Teeter kind of thing. It's Publix, which is big in the South. But anyways, I miss Publix. But they have on the outside of the building, they have, this is for plastic bags, this is for egg cartons, this is for this. And so when I was a kid, it was just the whole trunk on the way to the grocery store was filled with this. And it was mine and my sister's job to make sure it all got in the particular thing. And then of course we would get whatever, all the food and stuff, and we'd have unload the groceries, and then the next time we go, what we used would go right back in the boxes. So it's this constant recycling. And I think if that, right now, the amount of plastic bags I have in my dorm room is a lot. But eventually, I'm not just throwing them out, I'm saving them, and then I'll take them home and do whatever. But it's just, if people, I guess, realize that it's not that hard, and it's so much more easier to just recycle that stuff. Especially when there's big signs that say plastic bags, egg cartons, brown paper bags,
practically
paper.
writing it on
Right,
your forehead.
exactly.
So raising awareness is
Right.
very important. Yeah.
Okay. Number 3. How do hefty per can garbage pickup fees influence the decisions people make about what goods they will consume? Yes.
I think people would be more likely to use reusable items, like in the kitchen, use more glass that they can be rewashed versus the disposable, like the styrofoam and the plastic and all that.
Makes sense. Does everyone agree?
Yeah.
Number 5. I skipped number 4. Number 4 is the thing. Because I can't. How does interstate trade in trash differ from interstate trade in other products? I was a little bit confused as to what interstate trade is. It's still not entirely positive.
Well, trash. Really, what's the benefit of trading trash?
There is, but it talked about it.
But I'm just talking about if you take a big step back and just think, what is the benefit of trading trash? I mean, it's not like you're getting anything other than say monetary or maybe sentimental, something like this. But if let's say I give you a milk. You are benefiting out of that because you can drink the milk. But if I give you a mound full of trash, what are you gonna do with that trash?
Charge you for it?
But if you have a place to put the trash and you get paid to make a landfill, then that they're giving you money.
Yeah, this is
And
Yeah,
that's still, that
that's
was,
what I'm saying. That you'll get like
exactly.
a monetary value or whatever. But that's kind of how I see it. There's a less of an incentive because you're not really, other than like to get like money or something out of it, you're not getting any real benefit out of it. Like as far as you won't be able to consume anything from said trash, unless it's like a recycled. That's different. That's not trash. We're talking about like trash. But unless it's something like that, I mean, that's how I think it's different because listen, you're not getting a direct. That's the way I'm looking for. You're not getting a direct benefit from it.
I didn't realize trash trade was a thing until I read this. But when you think about it, like the states that they don't have climate to grow crops or they don't have natural resources that they can sell, I mean, what else can you do? You can just be like, yo, I'll take your trash, let me burn it and put it away if you give me some money, because you gotta still have money coming into that state economy.
I think that with the trading trash, people are thinking about the health hazards and how nasty it is for the economy and the air around them and stuff, and that's why it's such a dislike to them and the perception of why it would be like that.
Adding on to what she said, they probably also think about how it could lower the
And I mean, looking at like the book used specific, or it was either the book or the article, I don't remember now. But they mentioned that people think that it does lower the value of their property, and it's not like 100%. It's just like the mindset people have. It's like landfill is like a big dump. It's naturally going to smell because garbage smells, and it's not pretty. Why do I want that here? But I mean, like if the landfill is run well and safely and they do what they're supposed to do, it's really not that big of a problem. Like that's what they found. But it's really just like that mindset people have. It's like, I don't want that here.
There's a couple of things with this two different kind of trade. Okay, the first thing is, you know, it's importing trash that generates revenue, right? But for the other products, it's exporting goods to generate revenue. So that is one difference. And the second difference is trash itself has this negative externality. We talk about externality, right? Because it may potentially decrease the value of the property around that area. But if you import other goods or export other goods, you know, there's no such obvious externality involved. So I would say that's the difference between two. One is importing, generating, the other one is exporting, then the other one is externality involved.
Number 6. The population concentrations of most counties in the United States tend to be located in the middle of each county. Where do you think most landfills are located within said county? So Anthony first, I think.
On the outsides between the counties, because there's not as many people, so it won't be as big of a problem.
I know, you're talking about landfills, like landfills also, like your recycling plants and all those, and, I mean, you're not gonna put it in the middle of the city, but I've noticed, like, being around places, they're usually placed near the poorer county, if that makes sense. So like Tallahassee is right here, and so off to the west is Franklin and Gadsden, and Gadsden's very impoverished, and it just happens that the Tallahassee trash landfill is closer to it's like right there on Gadsden's county kind of line, and I've seen that in a lot of places. Like they kind of, it's like it's already a devalued kind of land, so they kind of just shove it away towards already much of the problem, which being the humanitarian, I'm just like I don't think that's right, but obviously there's not much of a, like you're not putting a landfill in the middle of your town next to all the business. But there's got to be a way, I guess, to find a central point, if that makes sense.
Go ahead.
In Southport, North Carolina, which is like a really big vacation destination, there's like a trash dump right in the middle of everything. Like it's like next to one of the biggest parks where every rec thing happens. It's like right next to it, and it's also next to Progress. Well, it's not Progress Energy; it's Duke Energy now. But I mean, it's like right there in the middle. And the weird thing is I don't ever smell it, but I think that's because I live there. But I'm sure that when guests like people come to the beach at Oak Island and stuff, they're probably wondering why we have like a dump right in the middle of everything.
Interesting. I wonder if it's because it's like already a tourist destination. They don't have to worry about people coming because they're coming for the beach and that.
Yeah, maybe. I have no idea, but it is really weird because like the park is like a really big thing and it's right next to it. I mean,
I go through there all the time and never noticed it.
you know where the big water tower is? It says Southport. It's right underneath that, like
Really?
right underneath it.
Yeah, I know like Winston-Salem. You have Winston-Salem, and then all around it you have like smaller towns, and Walkertown happens to be the poorest of all of them, and our trash dump is in Walkertown. So I don't know. Okay, last one. This one's kind of long, so that's why I put it at the end. A community planning on charging a fee for trash pickup might structure the fee in any of several ways, as we have discussed. It might, for example, charge a fixed amount per can, an amount per pound of garbage, or a flat fee per month without regard to the amount of garbage. How would each of these affect the amount and type of garbage produced? Which system would lead to an increase in the use of trash compactors, and which would lead to the most garbage? Olivia, second first.
Okay. So like in the book in the beginning, it said with the flat fee with like the food, people are going to eat more. So with the flat fee with the garbage, then people are just going to be throwing out everything, and then they're going to be using stuff, and maybe that's not a good thing because you know, where are we going to put all this trash? And then like you said about the recycling thing, how most of the time when you throw something in the trash, it's trash, and they really can't get any value of it. If it doesn't matter how much trash you put out, and just say you do throw some away, maybe you would get more quality stuff to recycle. So I guess maybe I'm kind of arguing with myself, but my first thought was that the flat fee is definitely not a good thing.
So that's not the best for you.
Yeah.
It's like the easier way, but it's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
The one that talks about the fixed amount per can, that's a good idea until you think about what we talked about earlier, where people were like not really stealing other people's space in their trash can, but they were not
just
doing
dumping
they were
stuff.
just dumping it somewhere, and that would lead to a lot of trash compactors like you have.
Oh. Okay. We were talking about the midnight dumping, and they talked a lot about that. And I know, like, in a lot of public places, but like my church, for example, I live right down the road from it, and like a lot of the time I'll go up there and someone will be dumping their trash. But there's a huge sign that says private property, and you don't think of like a church, like, I mean, obviously they have trash. Like, you don't think of people like going and putting trash, but it's because they don't have like a trash can at their home because they don't want to pay that. So then they use the public or the church or, you know, the big industrial bit. So,
Sarah.
I like the idea of the per pound of garbage, but I think there would be problems in being able to people to conceptualize like how much trash they're using and like how much does this trash bag actually weigh? Like when you actually say this, you can fill this can, even if they do compress it, which would put more trash in the can. At least they have a goal and they'd be more apt to go inside that goal. And the amount per pound of garbage, I think you're still gonna have the public going to church and
You're gonna
dumping
take
your
your
garbage.
heavier
You're
pieces.
still gonna have that.
Right.
Or like going out like on a back road somewhere and dumping stuff. That's a huge problem where I live. People just go down like a dirt road and throw their stuff out because they don't want to have to pay the dump to get rid of it, like couches and etc. It's horrible. It really is. They put cameras up so they could start getting people's tax numbers from doing that.
So do you guys have like bulky collection day? Cause like
Yeah, we do, but people still you can use that. I think they do it like twice a year for the bulky stuff, but people still take their trash out, and it sucks because wildlife doesn't need trash.
So what would be the ideal system or mechanism to be used?
I think where there's the tax, they add the tax for the first can, and then they actually charge you for more than that.
So like by can.
Yeah, was it in Pennsylvania that they used that?
I think so.
Or they
oh,
said
Seattle.
Yeah,
and the
where
property
economists
tax
said
code.
if you changed this, then you still have the the good of this and fix your problems.
Yeah, so make like the first trash can free, like
additional
and then the additional.
So the idea here is utilize the price discrimination concept. If we kind of combine these two, per pound garbage and a flat fee, we have both in place, okay? But of course, the flat fee will be much higher. Then let people self-select themselves into each one of the system. The people who do not generate a lot of garbage, they will choose the per pound of garbage. The big family will choose a flat fee. So by doing this, and you kind of, you makes people self-select based on their preference, based on their lifestyle and habits, you would generate as much as revenue, and you wouldn't make people save as much, by doing it. So this again, they come back to the concept price discrimination, Yeah, if you just have one system, you cannot put everyone into that one system, but if you have breakdown in different system, and you allow the difference of the preference.
So it's a mixture.
It's a mixture.
Kristen, were you gonna say something?
I was gonna say, I don't think there's one specific ideal system.
So like, you need to combine different
It's
pieces.
individualized based on a case-to-case basis. Like she said, the big family would be better with the flat rate, but someone who doesn't produce a lot of garbage would be good for the per pound and that kind of thing.
So did everyone talk today?
I believe so.
She fall asleep. She fall asleep. Okay, don't wake her up. So she did not talk. She's just too tired. That's okay. The beginning.
Okay, so that is basically it. I thought it was kind of interesting how like people are shoving recycling at you like, do this, it's going to save everyone, and it's not exactly the miracle.
Okay, so on Thursday is saving the species. You guys going to do it? Okay, right? Okay. And I'm going to determine the topic for next Tuesday. Then on Thursday I will ask for the volunteer. And again, you need to start thinking about the paper topic, And
Can we email you about our paper topics?
Well, no, I have to sign up now.